Hey there, Aries. Welcome to your reading for the week of September 1st. I hope. This week, we are going to jump right in here. You have this key card. It says, locked doors can now be open. You also have the sun card. It says, your perseverance is rewarded. So this looks pretty good, Aries, right away. I would say that, this week, the readings have been, I don't know, like not bad, but just like different. And this was kind of similar. Just like the September readings in general, I would say were kind of like that. It's like there weren't like any terrible cards, or it wasn't like a bunch of terrible cards were coming up, but it's like, just a different vibe to the energy. Your reading actually looks very good. Again, everybody had this different vibe. It's like, again, the cards that were showing up for everybody else like weren't bad. But even actually your reading, when you think about it, you do have very good cards, but you have like the Eight of Cups, Seven of Swords. So I don't know what's going on this week, or if it's just, the month of September in general, the vibe is different, which makes sense because there are two eclipses. Again, people. It's kind of funny because people ask this question all the time. Like, what astrology? I've had this question many times where people say, "What astrology do you feel the most?" And I always say moons and eclipses, right? And it's kind of funny that you start with the Eight of Cups. The Eight of Cups is the only card in the tarot that has an eclipse on it right here. So a lot of you, really could be feeling the eclipse right now. Again, I'm recording this video on August 28th. This will be published on the 29th, and it's definitely possible that you could be feeling the first Pisces, the first eclipse on the 7th at the end of this first week of September is in Pisces. So you could be feeling that energy now. And, you could be feeling some sort of change, or, some like, you could be wanting to make some deep changes. I would say specifically for you, Aries, it's probably about, like kind of like deep internal change that you want to make. You have the reason I'm saying this as well, I forgot to say, is you have the Death card here. On the Death card, the Death card, the King is dead. And I'll show you that in a minute. But, the King being dead can say that even things that we think are going to last forever don't. Nothing lasts forever, right? And so there could be things that we are releasing, that you are releasing, I should say, during this eclipse that maybe you thought would last forever. But again, this probably isn't a bad thing. I would say, obviously it looks pretty good. You have good cards. Even next, you have the Wheel of Fortune. I don't know if I said this, but this first row is just your current general energies for the week. And you have the Wheel of Fortune, which can represent changes you're making to, change your fortunes. I kind of get the feeling here, it's kind of weird because you have this Queen of Swords, right? Obviously, the Queen of Swords comes up before the King of Swords. And you don't have the King of Swords here, but I just want to tell you what I'm getting intuitively here. That some of you, the King of Swords is like a card of maturity. And so, and that's kind of like what I feel for you. Like, I don't think you're beating yourself up, which is good, of course, because I think people do beat themselves up too much, right? But you could be having some moments. I think even right now, again, whatever this week was, today's the 28th, so whatever, the week of the 24th or whatever it was, right? It's like maybe you've been thinking to yourself recently, like, there are things that you should be doing, or there are things that you could be doing to maybe improve your situation more. And those things probably involve like more responsibility and, or, maturing in some way or releasing things. And, I don't know, I feel really good about this. So Aries, like I said, normally I would tell people to be careful of this type of energy because again, you want to make sure you're not, being too hard on yourself, not beating yourself up too much. That never helps. But, I think this is more, it's like coming from a different perspective, these feelings or whatever it is, Aries, that's like bubbling up inside of you. So, yeah, I feel pretty good about it overall. You have the Star. Again, another really good card. The Star is a card of hope, faith, and renewal. I literally do feel there could be kind of like something that's giving you hope. Your very first card says locked doors can now be open. And so I feel like a lot of you could be doing things that are, it's like you could be doing things that you've tried to do in the past. Now, this has come up for other people. I think I said this to someone else. I don't remember who, but, it seems to me like a lot of the messages in these readings have been saying that if there's something you want to do again, like now is the time, like the month of September. Even though this is a weekly reading, I would say, you probably have the entire month, maybe even longer, who knows. But, it might be a good time to try that thing, that wish or that dream or something you tried to accomplish in the past that didn't work out. It might be a good time to like try it again, especially if you've tried to do something before. I kind of said this, I think, maybe last month in the August readings. Well, I should say in the August readings. I know that we're not in September yet, but and maybe I said it at the end of July as well. I kind of feel like we're all getting like one more chance, to make something work. Neptune is going to be going back into Pisces. Saturn will be there on the 1st. I can't remember Neptune off the top of my head, but Neptune's on its way back, and into Pisces, and it's like I've heard some other astrologers say that that our last chance was like July to kind of like upgrade, change our lives, but I really feel that we have kind of like the rest of this year. Now, I'm not saying that you should be like resting on your laurels and like not making moves, but I do think we have a little bit more time because we're getting one more chance of Neptune and Pisces. Neptune and Pisces is the big impossible dream. And so again, if you're, I say this to you all the time, Aries, you specifically, seem to be working on a dream or a daydream or something like that, or, something that you've been dreaming of doing. With the Eight of Cups, you have the Queen of Wands, probably one of the better energies to be in at this time, and you have her twice here. She's just willing to learn as she goes. Again, we talk about this all the time with you, right? Saturn will be moving back into Aries in February of next year. And so, again, even though it's not there yet, even though it's retrograding into Pisces, on the 1st, it will be in Pisces. Right now, it's still in Aries. It's kind of like, I would still make sure that you're like picking one thing and seeing it through to the end. That energy is going to be the best thing for Aries. With the Wheel of Fortune, oh my God, you cannot make it up. It's like I'm speechless. I don't even need to say anything, right? I literally said the maturity thing on that Wheel of Fortune. You cannot make that up. That was like the word that popped into my head with the Wheel of Fortune, which the Wheel of Fortune doesn't even represent maturity. But again, that's what I was getting intuitively. It makes sense because these two are connected here in the reading, Aries. But that's definitely what I was feeling on that card right there. With the Star, you have the Justice card. There's something weird going on with working with opposite sign energy, I would say. Like, almost everybody also gets these messages of, like, needing to learn your opposite sign, which I think is a good thing for everyone to do anyway, like with astrology. You should be working with your opposite sign energy and learning it, right? And this is Libra, your opposite sign, so, I think learning to balance things out, learning to, work hard, play hard, things like that, I think would be good for you, Aries, with the Justice card. And, again, you have a lot of justice here. King of Swords is law and order. You have the Justice card, and then you have the Ace of Swords, which is also like law and order. Or, the Ace of Swords can also be like a legal victory or some sort of win. So definitely good for justice. Next, in the area of what's coming in for you, you have this Crow Spirit. It says, you'll soon receive news that will bring some blessed experiences into your life. Love it. You have this Koi Fish Spirit. It says, you're manifesting more love, prosperity, and wealth into your life. But, again, I think this is going to come from that Queen of Wands energy. She's willing to learn as she goes. She's willing to, see something through to the end. She might not be sure of all, she doesn't have all the answers, which is kind of the challenge for everyone, I think, is that we probably want answers that we aren't going to get. It's like no one's going to tell you right now that you're doing the right thing. No one's going to tell you that they think that your ideas are good. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges. I talk about this all the time because it's a big challenge. No one talks about it. Neptune and Pisces. It's like the thing about Neptune and Pisces is when Neptune's not in Pisces, it's like maybe if we're trying to accomplish something, it's like, we'll start and there will be like a little clue, like a milestone that you are getting closer to the goal. With Neptune and Pisces, it's like this. You know what I mean? It's like super far apart, the milestone. So you're blind in between, right? You don't know if you're doing the right things or not. And I believe Neptune and Pisces, and also Neptune and Aries, kind of in a similar but different way, is teaching us to kind of like be truly independent. Make our own decisions and things like that. And so that's where your success is going to come from, especially for you. Because, again, Saturn and Neptune are going to be in your sign next year. I mean, they are right now, but you catch my drift. You have the Queen of Swords, the Death card, and the Ace of Swords. Queen of Swords is about clarity. Again, I think it's interesting that you go like Queen of Wands, Queen of Swords with the Queen of Wands, but also this locked door can now be open. It's like you started here, then maybe you had to get some clarity, and it's like now you're returning to this Queen of Wands energy. And again, it doesn't matter what gender you are. You are just, I think, embracing the energy of the Queen of Wands. Again, following your bliss. She has a sunflower right here. The sunflower points towards the sun. The whole point of the Queen of Wands is to, move towards things that bring you joy, peace, happiness, fulfillment, enlightenment. It's to follow your bliss and to learn as you go and to not care what people think as well. You have the Death card. Definitely could be some big changes coming in for you at this time. I do feel like some of you, like, again, that maturity message thing, it's like sometimes the Death card can say that we are going through changes. The other thing that I will say about Neptune and Pisces is I think Neptune and Pisces is like a little bit nostalgic, where there are like we could be thinking about things that we feel like we're losing from the past. It's like age hits a little bit different, right? Especially Saturn retrograde as well. It's like sometimes I think Saturn retrograde, you can just be like, oh my God, I'm old. Saturn is time. And, even if you're not old, you could feel old, right? It's like one of those, it's not like you really feel old, but you could just be like, oh my God, I'm not enjoying the things I used to enjoy, or, I miss those XYZ moments in my life. And, really instead of like being sad about it, I think we need to say, hey, like, hey, that was fun. That was, a good part of my life. And now I need to create some new, happy memories. And, that's what it's really about. It's about, kind of filling that space with more joy and needing to do that, right? I also think it would be an amazing time for you to challenge beliefs. We have this guy here. This guy, he kind of looks like the Hierophant or like a pope, and he's begging for his life, but he represents those beliefs that we're holding on to. Neptune and Pisces is a direct challenge to traditional belief. There are things that we believe just because, and Neptune and Pisces is like, why? And there doesn't have to be an answer, by the way. The answer could be, I believe this because I always have. And you could realize that you don't need to believe certain things that you've always believed. Or you could realize that, hey, these beliefs have really served me. These beliefs have been really good for me. But there's going to be like, different, some beliefs you're probably going to hold on to from your life. And other beliefs you're going to be like, oh, I really didn't need to believe these things that I've been believing for all along, right? And as Pluto is also retrograde, and Pluto can do the same thing, right? Pluto can do the same thing. I'll give you a great example. Recently, I had like a little bit of a health issue. I've always thought I've had this issue with my gallbladder, right? And so I just, like, over the past couple of months, I've had every single test you could possibly imagine, and there's like nothing wrong. And they're literally. And the funny thing is that I remember when I thought I had this issue, and it's like basically, Pluto has, I think, exposed to me that I created this in my head, and I just created a lot. I hold a lot of tension here. You know what I mean? It's like even, like for years I've been working on just breathing more deeply and things like that. So, I'm telling you this because, again, I kind of feel this for you, Aries, that you might, I'm not saying that you're having this issue. I'm saying there might be certain things that you created basically in your head, and those things could be being, could be being exposed to you, or you could be realizing it, or, something. And, I think the trick with this is a deep work reading for sure. You have cards that would say it would be a good time for that, like Eight of Cups, for example, Star, Ace of Swords, even the King of Swords, right? It would be good to get to the bottom of anything that you want to. And that is a trick with Pluto retrograde, especially in Aquarius. If we go deep and do that deep work, we can clear things up. And, that's basically what I would do. You have the Ace of Swords, which could be a victory or a big win coming in for you. So I do like to see this. Ace of Swords is about following your truth, which we are in a time of truth. I say this to everyone. I mean, we have to, and even the Queen of Wands says that. We'll talk about it in a second. But, we have to really kind of do what our truth is. But the problem is right now is like, we probably aren't really gonna, there might be some resistance is what I'm trying to spit out is, and I don't really have any good examples for you here, Aries, but, again, there might be some resistance to living your truth, but, I think you should, is what I would say here. I'll give you a good example. I've been taking this class every single Monday, right? I live in the middle of nowhere. I live in a very conservative area, and, so it's like I took this class, and some of the people in the class are like, oh, what do you do? And it's like I've been a little bit nervous to be like, oh, I'm a tarot reader on YouTube, because, it's like a very conservative area that I'm in. But what the funny thing is, is like all the people have been cool with it that I've told like what I do. You know what I'm saying? So it's like sometimes I think we just have to be okay with our truth no matter what, which is always true. But it's understandable to be to not like want to expose things. But, the Ace of Swords is, about the truth. With the Queen of Swords, you have the Page of Pentacles here. You could be attracting new love here, Aries. We go down to the King of Cups, which you get a lot with me. And, it doesn't have to be a water sign. It could be any sign. You literally have basically everything here. So there could be love coming in for you. I just feel like this is like communication. Here you go. With the Death card, you have the King of Cups again. So, definitely I felt communication here. And it's funny that I connected that, and then there you go. I love these readings that just flow like this. This is definitely, I think this could be a good flow week for you. Whenever I have a reading where it's like I'm basically predicting things as they come out, like the King of Swords and that King of Cups connection there, to me, that is just basically a clue from the universe that things could flow well for you. With the Ace of Swords, you have the Five of Cups. Yeah, again, the whole like nostalgia thing. Five of Cups is not a card of nostalgia, but he is grieving something that he used to enjoy. He is crying over his loss for his taste for wine. But the whole point of the card is that he needs to see these two cups behind him, and then he will get this bridge and this castle. Like, there's something better for him to be grateful for. And it's like when he is grateful for these two cups, he gets something better than three cups. He gets a bridge and a castle, right? Like, much better. So, I think that a lot of you are maybe needing to release some things this week. That's like the only challenge here, really, I would say, that you need to release some things that aren't really holding you back. I just think there's something better. Next, in the area of messages from your future self, you have the Law of Attraction card and this Watch for Signs card. It is a really good time to work with the Law of Attraction, I believe. Even if you don't believe in it, which is fine. I think it doesn't cost any money, right, to be more positive, to think more positively, and I would just try it and see what happens. Definitely could be attracting a lot of signs. We are in a very spiritual time. And also Neptune retrograde. Neptune retrograde, all the other retrogrades are not necessarily like Mercury retrograde, right? It's like sometimes the retrogrades can bring clarity. I mean, even Mercury retrograde brings clarity. But Neptune retrograde, I think something people need to realize about Neptune is you might be thinking Neptune and Pisces, when it's direct, will bring in a lot of clarity. But the thing about Neptune and Pisces is it's like, imagine being in the deepest ocean with like 1,000-foot waves with 1 billion hurricanes above your head. It's like Neptune is like chaos. And, it is like a little bit of a chaotic energy, especially when it's direct. So when it's going retrograde, it might actually bring a lot of clarity to intuitive insights that you've had in the past. And you could be getting a lot of clarity there, I feel. You have the Queen of Wands, the Seven of Swords, and the Emperor. Sometimes when I do a reading, I feel like a reading is really focused in on one energy, which I do feel is this Queen of Wands energy for you, Aries. I don't get this in every single reading, like I said, but, in this reading, the Queen of Wands is definitely popping into my head as your most important. You actually have a bunch of repeating cards. You have the King of Cups twice, you have Justice twice so far, you have the Queen of Wands twice, but, I feel like the reading itself is, I feel like it should be focused on this Queen of Wands energy. She's very bold, assertive, confident. She has this black cat right here. And during the times of tarot, black cats were considered unlucky. But, basically the whole point of the card is that she doesn't care what people think. What it symbolizes is that she just likes the cat. And she doesn't care what people think. Exactly what I was telling you about earlier, right? I think the more you can just not care, the better with the Queen of Wands energy. You have the Seven of Swords. Seven of Swords is about lying, cheating, stealing, but not always. Seven of Swords is actually a good card. Golden cards in the tarot are meant to be positive no matter what. And, this card, the Seven of Swords, he is sneaking away from this army that's in the background of the card. But he's going to war, but in a different way. Again, I think anything you can do to be different would be a good idea. I feel like you're early to something as well, is popping into my head. If you are working on a business or career or, whatever you're working on in life, you might be thinking you're behind, but I actually think you're ahead, is kind of the message I'm getting here. And so I feel like it's saying, it's almost like saying to me, like, don't delay whatever you're thinking about doing because you're actually ahead, but you have to get started to stay ahead. So I would do that. You show up in a very strong position. There's a lot of stuff about positioning in this reading as well. Whenever you show up as yourself, like I said, it puts you in a position of power and strength. But I kind of feel like you are showing up in a strong, it's like this is the area of your future. It's your future self. And I feel like your future self is saying the things you're doing right now are putting you in a position of power and strength. With the Queen of Wands, you have the Hangman. Yeah, new perspectives. We're in a time of new perspectives. Even Uranus and Gemini. Uranus will be retrograding back into Taurus on November 7th is the day that it actually does enter back into Taurus, but it doesn't matter. Again, it's been in Gemini already. And so we are in a time of very powerful new perspectives. I would just embrace new ideas. With the Seven of Swords, you have the Hermit. It's like I feel like something needs to be exposed here. I do. If this could like if you're interested in a person here, Aries, this could represent needing to flirt, needing to speak up more, needing to make your intentions known. Like, I'm not saying you have to like go and tell a person that you're interested in them, but it's like, especially for those of you that are interested in a person that maybe doesn't know who you are. So for some of you, then I think you have to like do something, right? With the Emperor, you have the Magician, more law of attraction. And by the way, you could be literally attracting an Emperor. If you're interested in a King of Cups type person, then, this could literally say that this is your person, really. The King of Cups doesn't have to be a water sign. I think that on the positive side of things, the King of Cups is usually someone who just has very stable emotions. Someone who's more like kind of like has a very level emotional state, someone who's more kind of like calm, cool, collected for the most part. That doesn't mean that they don't have their moments or whatever, but that might be a clue as to who this person is. This also would say that your emotional state is the thing that is going to help you manifest. So you have this law of attraction card, you have the Magician. This would basically say that you need to make sure that you are staying in a positive emotional state so that you can attract good things into your life, right? Next, in the area of the good stuff, you have this heal card and this balance card. Yes, it's like I just gave the example. I think it's an amazing time for healing and going deep on your healing. And so, obviously it would be a good time to heal anything. You have the Justice card twice. So, amazing time to bring things into balance. You have the Justice card, the Two of Pentacles, and the King of Cups. Justice is cause and effect. Justice with the Two of Pentacles is definitely work hard, play hard. But I would just pay attention to what's working. I would just give to what is working in your life, plain and simple, with the Justice card. And if you do that, things will go well. You have the Two of Pentacles. I don't always say this, Aries, but sometimes, I have a couple cards in the tarot that I call clue cards. And the Two of Pentacles sometimes to me is like a clue for a settlement. This could be like the universe settling up with you, meaning that it seems to me that at the beginning of the reading that there's something that you're kind of, maybe doing again from the past, that you're trying again. And, this could be the universe like letting something work in a better way, or it could be something is just working in a better way for you compared to the past. And it's almost like the universe is kind of like bringing you a settlement. You have the King of Cups. Again, definitely could be a person. Again, these people are usually very level-headed. They can be a little adventurous as well. We have this boat back here, and the boat can represent like going on adventures, things like that. So they can be a little bit adventurous, usually very stable emotions as well. Like I said, I think that you could be using your emotions to, manifest as well. Yeah, with the Justice card, you have the Strength card. Strength and Justice is about balancing out your own emotions. The Strength card, this is her inner critic, her inner demons, whatever you want to call it, this lion. And she's the one that is in control. And so, again, the more you control yourself, again, Pluto retrograde, right? I question how much like Pluto really affects us. It's very far away. Do we feel the effects? Probably. But it's a very far away, planet, planetoid, whatever you want to call it, right? I know it's not a planet anymore, but whatever. And, so again, I question how much it affects us, but, again, I do think it's a good time to work on those things. With the Two of Pentacles, you have the Hierophant. Hierophant can be blessings coming in for you, especially in the good stuff. And I'm pretty sure, what did this card say? You'll soon receive news that will bring some blessed experiences into your life. So definitely blessings. With the King of Cups, you have the Two of Swords. I think you need to believe that this is possible. If you're interested in a person here, Aries, I feel like you need to believe that you can be with this person. This kind of gives me, I will tell you what this is. We call this attractive person syndrome. It's like, sometimes I think that it's like if you're interested in an attractive person, right? It's like you might just think like, oh, they definitely are taken. This is what's popping into my head. But it's like sometimes I think that's what happens to attractive people. It's like everybody just assumes they're taken, they end up single, right? It's like that's what's popping into my head here. It's like you might actually be interested in a very attractive person, but it's like what you don't realize is they're actually single because everybody thinks the same thing. Like how could they be single, but they actually are. So I don't know. I think you should go for this, whatever it is, for some of you. You have this Inkpot card that says problems to be resolved. This card represents small problems, and it is a good time to like clean things up, right? And so I would definitely work on cleaning any issues up. You have this goldfish. It says increase in material wealth or spiritual growth. Yeah, I mean, the reading looks very good, Aries. A lot of good stuff coming up here, so definitely could be an increase. You have this ring card. It says a marriage will take place, either in romance or business. I kind of feel like both for some of you. I mean, maybe not like this second, but, definitely as we move forward into the future, definitely could be making a bigger commitment. You have this hills card. It says obstacles to overcome, but these are hills, they're not mountains. Even the Two of Pentacles, sometimes it's coming up in the good stuff, but, some in Five of Cups as well, right? Both of those cards can sometimes represent, like, taking making something out to be more of an issue than it actually is. So I would be careful of turning hills into mountains, right? You have this fair woman. It says dealings with relationships with a woman with blonde, gray, or white hair. You have this owl. It says good advice from a wise person. I've said this before a million times. We are in the time of the mentor. And so anything you want to learn, anything you want to know, I mean, it's just a really good time to learn from other people. So, I think it could just be a good time for learning. But this looks really freaking good, Aries. And this just flowed, this reading. So, love it. Thank you for being here, and definitely enjoy your week.